What's up everybody, how's it going? It's Burke, aka Dansgreat here, and welcome back to our Final Fantasy XII attack-only adventure. I hope you guys are enjoying the playthrough so far. We've been making slow but steady progress so far, and in this episode I'm looking forward to sharing more from my journey to try and complete this game by only using the attack command in battle. So let's get straight into it and continue with episode 3. Please remember to drop a like on these videos. It's especially important for these kind of series. I would truly appreciate it. Let's see what's in store for the gang in this episode. Okay, so we rounded off episode 2 with a clutch victory against the Queen Mimic, and what we have now is a new party member in Ashe, a strong party member that I decided to entrust a particularly powerful role to. He is now the monk, and that's one that I definitely knew I needed. So far at least I've been focusing a little bit more on like keeping my distance from enemies with things like Archer and Machinist, but when I was making my planning for this series, just like a rough idea of what kind of path I would go, I of course knew that I needed a few more like brute force kind of characters, so high HP, high damage dealing kind of characters that could potentially just go in there and blitz through fights. So I was really glad to have Ashe on the team. I think he's naturally built for that kind of thing, and he's going to offer a little bit more balance and a little bit more firepower to the squad. So we're going to stick around in this area for a little longer. I was trying to make a few more preparations, just get my inventory sorted a little bit, and because I'm following along with the Jagged Guide as I go, that guide basically tells you whenever there's new hunts available based on where you are in the game. And I decided that since I'd had a pretty decent start with the hunt so far, I might as well do any of them that pop up that are going to be particularly easy especially. And so I thought it might be a nice idea to kind of do those for a little bit more experience, to pick up any items or equipment that might be helpful as a result of doing these hunts. And so before moving on to Bougerba, I decided to stick around a little more and just get into a few more fights, do a couple more little hunts, and see how I fare with those. So let's take a little look at this one. We're going to be taking on the Thexterra, who is the second hunt. Not expecting anything too crazy here, but we'll see how the boys did. I am swapping out the Mithril Blade that Ashe comes with for a Cypress Pole. Technically my attack power goes down, but I kind of just needed to set him on the path of being a monk and just use the equipment that he should be. And thanks to obviously the monk role that he already has a lot of HP compared to the rest of them. So Thexterra was a complete non-entity, we just completely destroyed it. And as I say, if you look at the HP here, Ashe already has 557. So for him, I kind of went on, try to get as much HP as quickly as possible. Monks are of course built for that, and it's another area in which my team was lacking, because Varn could definitely improve his HP a little bit more. He has some HPs that are a little bit closer, but early on at least I prioritized a few other things a little bit more, and so for now I definitely needed to bolster the HP, and Ashe was a perfect addition for that. And so with that very easy win against Thexterra out of the way, I was pretty close to the Garamscythe waterway anyway, and so I thought to myself, let's take on Wraith, who is hunt number 4. Now this one I got a little bit cocky, because I beat the Thexterra so quickly, I kind of didn't heal as I should have. As you can see, Ashe has like 200 HP less than he should and that kind of thing, and this guy immediately comes in with a Doom. Now I was trusting in my damage output here, but you can see that this guy has a lot of HP, and even though the defenses aren't crazy, like I'm still doing 60 to 100 damage, he's very good against the gun. So Balthea at the moment is pretty useless. You can see he's doing 12 damage. And so given how much HP the Wraith has, I realized that this might actually be a bit of a troublesome situation. So I swapped in Fran to see if she could do a little bit more damage, but I wasn't too hopeful because I think this kind of being versus projectiles is probably not as good. But you did see that she threw in a 46 there, so Fran was the better choice. But already at this stage, we're starting to see some issues. So Ashe has been put to sleep here as well. So the Wraith was, in the context of this challenge at least, a big step up from the Thexterra. And he's hitting for big damage as well. Like Ashe got hit for 148 damage there. And this was already starting to look pretty bad. And so there was quite a leap between the Thexterra and the Wraith. So this was my first attempt, and I did come in with like less HP than I should, and that kind of thing. And it felt to me like, yeah, we're probably still close enough that if we come in with full HP, and maybe we rely on a little bit of RNG just to get a couple of chains going, or you know, for it to use slightly different moves, we'd probably get it done. So we did eventually end up failing our first attempt against the Wraith, but I left it here and I decided to move on to hunt number 3 just to see if I could get that one, get a little bit stronger in the process, maybe go up a level, and then come back for the Wraith afterwards. Okay, so we are back in the Estersand, and anything that we face in this particular area, it's all like 2-hit KO kind of territory, and so the boys can kind of run rampant here. As I've been saying, it still continues to be the case. We're not actively trying to farm for levels here. I'm still doing stuff like related to the main game and to do with the side quests, and any levels we gain along the way obviously are just going to be what we take naturally through the playthrough. Now you can see that the Cactoid does have Protect, which is a little bit annoying here, and I was a little bit worried that we're going to be stuck again where we're not going to be able to kind of do the damage necessary. So let's see how this goes. Varn's already down to 59 HP. So whoever the Cactoid picks on, they get attacked pretty swiftly here. And so I was trying to draw the attention away from Varn if I could, trying to keep him alive here. But unfortunately, once it set its sights on Varn, I got destroyed. So now the Protector's worn off, as you can see. So time to swap in Fran now as well. Let's see what happens. Yeah, now it's trying to run from me. So this fight was kind of funny because it's so early in the game that I did not realize that my monk's weapon actually had an elemental on there. Like, I thought the first one that you get, it probably doesn't have an elemental, and you can see the Cypress pole actually has an earth element attached to it. So I really did not think that that would be a thing, and I finally realized, and I changed to this sword. So even though the sword was not ideal here, you can see how easy this fight really is. And so I spent some time healing it without realizing, thinking that maybe it has some kind of auto regen or something that I wasn't seeing. And it caused like unnecessary chaos. Like, this fight was actually really easy. But do not go in with a Cypress pole and try to hit it, because you will accidentally heal it, and obviously that's not what we want to do in this fight. So that was kind of funny. But since the area is just generally so easy, even though these random encounters kind of joined in the fun, it wasn't an issue. So this was a scrappy fight that shouldn't have been a scrappy fight, but it was a little lesson learned there, and I need to be careful with my elementals here, and to make sure that I kind of check what's going on before I go into a boss battle or a hunt. But for now, we're going to move straight ahead to our rematch against the Wraith. And Barsh this time has full HP, as he should. And since his sword, the one that he comes with, naturally has one more attack power than the pole, I decided to just go for that one and see if it will help me a little more. I think it does ever so slightly more damage than the pole, so probably an okay idea here. Now, I probably should have swapped in Varn, but I decided to kind of keep him like off the field and swap him in as needed, and see if I could draw the attention of the Wraith with the others. Basically, I didn't want Barsh to get the Doom, but him getting the Doom obviously at the start was not great. But it's literally this one more so than others because of the Doom, of course. It really does turn into a bit of a race against time. So I don't think I did this the right way. I should have probably swapped in Varn earlier. But I decided to do that now. And well, I do manage to land a silence there, but unfortunately, as you can see, Doom still happens even though the enemy is silenced. That to me always seemed a little bit bullshit, because like Doom should be a spell. It's clearly like something that is casting onto us. So I didn't really like that, but that's the way the mechanics work, and Doom still counts. Well, Doom is still able to hit even if the enemy is silent. So that's a bit of a shame. But now I can swap Fran back in. So this is like, for this particular fight at least, this is the party that can do the most amount of damage. And I'm definitely much, much closer to winning than I was the first time. But those hits do a lot of damage, man, like 120 there on Varn. And he doesn't exactly have a ton of HP, so it's going to be quite close because of the countdowns as well. But I think we should be able to get there this time. Varn might not make it, but we should have plenty of time. Varn has fallen, but we do have, of course, Balthier to swap in. And it's still one of the most useful mechanics for Final Fantasy XII, the way that you can just swap in a party member when one falls. It's going to be really helpful, and I'm definitely going to make use of it moving forward. So we don't have to like revive anybody or permanently drop to 2 party members or something like that, even though we have somebody in reserve. So that's really nice. So you saw that combo that it did against Barsh. It got 5 hits in a row and managed to kill Barsh. That's going to be something that's going to come up again. Well, many a time moving forward. But that's one element of this game that is both, I think, really cool and interesting and kind of more dynamic, but it can also be incredibly frustrating. And I'll talk more about that in a future hunt that you're going to see a little bit later in this episode. And so for now, that basically wrapped up what I wanted to do in Rabanastre and like the surrounding areas. Before leaving, I tried to make sure I visit Mont Blanc, because depending on how many hunts you do, you obviously increase your like rank within the guild, and as a result you get given a few extra little treats, and that was another motivation to be able to do these hunts. And so I wanted to make sure I did that. It unlocks a few new options as well, but for these at least I decided to skip them for now. I wanted to start making progress with the story and see how far I could get. So it is off to Bougerbe. Man, Bougerbe looks so cool. I have to say, it's definitely one of my kind of favorite areas aesthetically. Yeah, that type of thing is just like, that to me is just quintessential. That's what Final Fantasy really is to me. Like these types of kind of almost basically impossible locations. That's what I want to see. It's called fantasy for a reason. Gotta flex those fantasy muscles. Anyway, in Bougerbe there is quite a lot of dialogue and story as well, but the main meat of the gameplay in Bougerbe is going to be with Larsa, known currently as Lamont, and thankfully he's going to join us as a party member, and we will go into the Lhusu Mines together to see if we can make some more progress in this tale. So with the formalities out of the way, I decided to have a look once again at the license board before heading in, and you can see Varn as a Shikari, he gets pretty decent HP access quite early on. And it was starting to show already from some of the hunts that we were doing that he kind of needs to improve his HP. Because he is a melee fighter and so often he's going in close and drawing the aggression of the enemies that we're fighting against, he really does need to up his HP to survive in there for longer. So I decided to go for the 70. We're entering like a new area, new zone of the game, and enemies are going to get a little more difficult, so I should probably make an effort and start boosting that HP as soon as possible. Unfortunately for Balthier the Machinist, his HP is much further away. Now, you've been seeing that a lot of times, even though obviously archers and machinists and stuff, they have less HP, they really offset that by keeping their distance, and especially if you mix them together with more melee fighters who often draw the aggression, the lower HP isn't as big of an issue. Now, in the future, if we come up against enemies that have moves that basically hit everyone regardless of how far away they are, and they spam those moves quite a lot, then we're going to start to potentially have more problems with our long-range jobs. But for now, at least, I was pretty happy with it. I thought as long as I have 2 attackers that are strong in terms of their HP and their attack, and the other 2 keeping their distance, I think it was generally a pretty good balance for now. Definitely started to increase my items as well before heading in, just making sure I have enough potions and Phoenix Downs. As I mentioned in the previous episode, at this point, I'd already basically given up the whole idea of trying to not use any items either. I was committed to basically allowing myself the use of items like potions, remedies, and Phoenix Downs as long as we weren't engaged in battle. That's going to continue to be the case pretty much for the rest of the playthrough. Alright, let's rock. The leading man does take the lead, and we are going to try and make our way through. Pick up any chests that I run into along the way, and see how the difficulty is going to ramp up, if at all. So here's our very first encounter in the mines. Obviously using my long-range attacker to try and instigate the fight as soon as possible, and give my melee attackers a chance to start loading up before they even get to the enemy here. So early signs are decent. We're doing okay here. We need about, again, 4 to 6 hits per enemy. It kind of depends on how long the dungeon is, how many of these encounters we can avoid, and how soon we'll have a pit stop for some healing, like some true healing. Obviously I don't want to overly spam the healing because I need the gil, and I might not have the supplies obviously to last the entire dungeon. So again, it's kind of trying to establish a balance between how many to fight so that I can level up, gain LP points, potentially gain some items, that kind of thing. And when do I need to basically say, no, we need to try and avoid this one, or just, you know, skip it entirely. But on an individual level, as long as there's only like one enemy, or maybe a couple tops, we're not doing too bad. But as is the case from the very start, enemies will be chipping away damage, and you can see Varn already is almost down to half because of that aggressive fighting style. And so this is what I mean about the whole like no healing thing. I think, again, if you really just avoid the encounters here, just try to sprint through, and just only take chip damage from these enemies getting like little shots at you while you run past, you can probably still get through. But I much preferred fighting through dungeons in this kind of style, where it's a mix of like actually engaging with the dungeon and trying to complete it properly, instead of just the whole like sprint through type of route. There will be some times where I definitely have to employ strategy like that, but for now at least I was happy to kind of work it through. Okay, so we're going to move it along a little bit here, because the Lhusu Mines is a big area, lots of different rooms, lots of corridors, and lots of encounters, so it did take me a little while to get through here. Obviously I'm not going to show you everything, otherwise it would be an entire episode just on Lhusu Mines random encounters. But this was an area where already things started to get a little more dangerous, because you can see once these guys get some momentum on you, it can get a little bit dangerous. I've only got 12 HP left now for Balthier, and we need to definitely start making use of the healing. That's why it's been kind of nice to have the Machinist and the Archer around. Because of their potion/remedy laws, we're able to get a little bit more utility out of the potions and stuff that we're going to be using. So especially for the dungeon crawling parts, it's definitely going to be very useful. It's going to literally cost us less resources to get the healing that we need. Okay, so now here comes one of the funniest aspects of the Lhusu Mines. So we are making our way through, and something will happen soon that's going to put a smile on your face. There it is, an explosion trap. The Lhusu Mines are, of course, covered in traps, and this is something that, honestly, I kind of forgot a little bit when I first came in. And once I ran through them, I was like, ah, shit, like, this is a big dungeon. These traps obviously cannot be seen currently, and depending on how lucky or unlucky you are, they could either do a little bit of damage or they could do a ton of damage. And I thought this could be, like, the random encounters already chipping away damage here. And I don't exactly have an insane supply of items, like I need to be careful here. Now, basically the way that you can avoid this in this particular situation is to use Libra. Now obviously I can't cast Libra because that would go against the rules of the challenge, because we'd be literally casting. There is another way, and that is to have a particular piece of equipment that has Libra already equipped. Now I don't have that equipment in my inventory right now, and I didn't want to try to sort of backtrack and try to like buy one. And so what I did know is that later on, when Ashe joins the party, she has this equipment as standard. And so I thought to myself, if I can just kind of make do right now, I'll just basically get that equipment later. And honestly, I was kind of a bit curious to see like how you could get through if you didn't even have Libra for the entire dungeon, and just how badly these bombs affect you. So this was a little bit of like morbid curiosity on my front. Again, I wouldn't advise it to be done this way, but what I am going to do is, for the first time I'm in the Lhusu Mines, I'm going to go through it without Libra, and you're obviously going to see some consequences of that as you're watching. And so you can see in sections where I fear that there's going to be traps, I take party members out, as many as I can. I can't remove them on, I'm not allowed to, but obviously the less party members you have around, the less likely you are to trigger off a mine. You can see it's not really working, because the game obviously sometimes they put mines right next to treasure chests on purpose, and so you're seeing me get hit with these traps quite regularly as well. But for me it was just kind of an extra layer, just I wanted to see how it's going to work. Probably not a great idea, but hey, we're still continuing to make our way through at the moment. So Balthier is building up quite a lot of LP points here. For Balthier, for me, the strategy was generally to try and gain access to more powerful equipment sooner. And I think basically, because the guns, obviously, they aren't related to your strength stat or anything like that, if you can find like a really powerful gun that you're able to use at a lower level, you can start to benefit from the massive damage that you can gain as a result. And so I wanted to try and unlock like the more powerful guns earlier, just in case there was a chance for me to actually get one. And this particular sort of path down the right side of his license board, that gives me both like potion laws and that kind of thing, and also access to more guns. And so yes, as a result, I unlock Sirius and Beetlejuice, and we need to kind of move things along on that side. But it's a lot of LP points, because those guns are quite powerful. They're hidden behind quite heavy LP requirements. So again, I'm kind of seeking HP here. I'm like, where are the HP gains for these guys? Thankfully for Archer, they're not too far away before you at least get a little boost. And so again, there's a few like useless things along the way, but it's a necessary evil, because obviously ultimately as you move on you are going to need as much HP as possible for everybody, of course. So for Fran, that was kind of the general idea. It was trying to get some more of these remedy / potion laws to help us outside of battle, and then to eventually start to head up to those extra HP bits so that I could get some more health. And you can see Bash continuing to make big moves here. He's getting a lot of HP, and that's going to be very useful. He's already up to over 700 at the moment, so that was definitely looking good. Alright, so at this stage we are almost at the end of our first foray into Lhusu Mines. It's not going to be the last time we come here anyway, so I didn't want to kind of overly explore. We're just here to try and save Penelo and get the hell out of there, so that's what we're going to do. So a few more little encounters here to go. But even with all of those guys, like, pummeling them, it's still taking like two rounds of hits from the whole party to kill one skeleton. So it's definitely not like, for example, obviously in the Estesan, where things are either 1-hit KOs or 2-hit KOs. So I think level-wise we're in a pretty balanced place at the moment. We're not completely demolishing stuff, but we're only taking chip damage basically ourselves. So in terms of levels, I wasn't too worried. I thought there's a pretty good chance we should be fine here. I think the only thing I haven't liked about the way the menus in the gameplay is set up, because obviously a lot of it is designed to be done by gambits, so this is not a fault of the game, but obviously this is just more of a situation that occurs as a result of the challenge and the run. When you need to heal outside of battle, as you do in this challenge, things are just very methodical and take a long time. So not being able to heal inside the triangle menu, which is something that you can do in almost every Final Fantasy, is a bit of a pain in the ass for this one. So ordinarily, obviously, I literally spent like a minute or two in the triangle menu looking for like potions in my inventory so I could just heal in the menu. But obviously the game doesn't let you do that, and so you have to be on the field and doing like, you have to input commands and that kind of thing. I don't want to do it using gambits because again I run the risk of doing it in battle. So if something goes wrong with the gambit or it doesn't trigger at the right time, I don't want to end up like healing by accident inside a battle and then that kind of ruining my kind of self-imposed rule about it. So I decided to just kind of take the extra time and just do it a bit more methodically and just heal outside of battle using obviously the basically like the battle menu itself. And so that's how I'm still gonna have to tackle healing, and that's a bit of a pain, but it is what it is. And we pick up an Assassin's Dagger. This is exactly the type of reason why I wanted to have Vaughn as a Shikari. There you go. So it has a KO on hit. That is really, really nice. I think it's like a 10% chance or a 15% chance. But given how many hits you can get in a fight, and the fact that the Shikaris are quick, I think that's not too unfair a percentage given how early it is in the game as well. So the Assassin's Dagger was a really nice pickup before heading to this part of the story where Bagamnon and his boys confront the party. Now, in this part of the game, you have a choice. Either you can kind of stand up and fight, or you can just turn heel and run away. Honestly, for this one, I didn't fancy my chances because there's multiples of them, and they seemed like relatively evenly matched or slightly high level compared to me. And so I thought, if the game literally gives you the option to run from these guys without really much of a penalty, let's take it and try to run. Because the entire thing is set up, like the cutscene is set up in a way that you're literally running away from it anyway. So I decided to kind of maintain that momentum and just keep running. Now, the only other thing here is that I was a little bit worried that my whole adventure with not using Libra, like not finding a way to obtain Libra, could that get me killed here as I tried to escape? Because obviously there's still mines around, as you just saw. And so I was thinking, like, what if I get myself killed as a result of the mines? And I ran into a dead end, foolishly here. And so that was a little bit of a worry for me. And here I am, look, taking all those extra hits. So not knowing your way around the map is definitely not great here. So this escape was already a little bit of a shambles right now. Getting hit by the explosion trap and going the wrong way. But we're back on track now. I decided to run down these corridors in case there's a lot of random encounters that spawn on the bridge. I honestly wasn't sure if random encounters even spawn here, or they give you like a free run out. At the moment at least, it looks as though no other encounters spawn. You just get a free path. You just have to make sure you stay ahead of the Ganon. So in hindsight, maybe better to just run straight across the bridge, but I wasn't sure if there was a lot of traps there. It's just hard to tell. But there you go. You can see the first random encounter, so they do still appear. And so at least for the moment, I felt justified in just taking the side routes and not the main bridge. If you notice, I turned off the speed up because I was like, this is one place where I kind of need to make sure I'm checking the map and concentrating on where I'm going. And it's way more likely to be a fail if I have the speed up on. So far, so good still. But I'm still at the mercy a little bit of traps at the moment. So I'm trying to... I don't know... Like, with this stuff, I'm running along the edges, but I don't really know if it's kind of randomized about whether they appear in the middle, on the edge. Do they appear in identical positions in every playthrough? That's something I'm not too sure about. I might quickly Google that during editing, and I'll let you guys know in an annotation if the traps are always in exactly the same place, or if there is a little bit of a random element to where they appear. But in any case, we managed to make the escape safely. We only got hit by one trap right at the beginning, but other than that, we were able to get out of there safely. So our first foray into the Lhusu Mines was a success. There's a few little bumps and stuff along the way, but nothing too problematic, and I will continue to move things along here to the next bit of gameplay. Alright, so at this point we also have a big lack of gil, so there's a few things that I can buy here that could potentially help me, but I've run out of money. I spent some time trying to sell a few things in the shops because I definitely knew that some upgrades were possible for me. Especially for Balthier, we could get the Vega now, for example, and that would give him a +5. It wouldn't be a huge amount, but hey, we'll take what we can get. I didn't really want to sell anything in my inventory just yet. You can sell ethers for 111, but I thought let's just leave it for now. But the motes, as I say, I decided to just sell them. I left at least one of each one. I was still a little bit scared here about what I can sell and what I can't. I didn't research that at this point. And all of these items here, later on I realized that you can sell most of them. But for now at least I was trying to sell like just a, you know, some of what I had in the inventory just to play it safe. And so now with 3,700 gil I could buy a Vega for Balthier, which gave me a nice attack power 14. I mean, it's not amazing, but hey, that's the way the guns work. At this point I decided to buy the Battle Bamboo, because that gives me a nice boost for my monk. And I think that was the last thing that I wanted to do in terms of equipment for now. I think in terms of weapons, this is roughly like the best stuff that I can have at the moment. So wanted to show you guys that, but now we will move things along so we don't spend too much time in the menus here. Now what I will do is head back into the Lhusu Mines because there was a hunt that I was interested in. And this is where I'm going to show you guys something that I both love and hate about Final Fantasy XII. So this was like my first little encounter here, and you can see things are generally fine as usual. I was a little bit curious about this big guy. I think it's a Slaven. Yeah, it's called a Slaven. I wanted to see how quickly I could kill it, because that guy's obviously a little bit more powerful than the others. But Balthier is already heading in for the kill here. Let's see how this goes. 155. Yeah, it's definitely a bit more powerful than the others. But its normal attack isn't too bad here. And so in general, the boys are kicking ass. So what I will do is move ahead to this particular hunt that I spent maybe about half an hour of my time on and end up not being successful on. So let's move it along. Okay, so along the way, I got attacked quite a lot on this bridge here, and Varn died as a result. Anytime where there's just like multiple enemies, there's like 3 or 4 of them, anything can happen. If they all decide to go after your Shikari, they will die. It just happens, because obviously I can't heal them in battle. So Varn ended up dying here. It wasn't that the area was generally difficult, it's just that sometimes you just get killed. That's how it is. Now, in the background, you can see the Nidhogg. And this was the next hunt that I wanted to go after, because I managed to beat all of them so far. And this one I felt like would be a good target for me and I might get some good rewards as a result of doing that. So you just saw there in the inventory me trying to use the Phoenix down, like outside of this particular menu, and it just doesn't work. Now when it comes to the Nidhogg fight, I think I will show you guys obviously some of the attempts in the background, but I'll generally talk about a mechanic that can sometimes trip you up in this game. And it's the fact that enemies really are designed sometimes in a way that they have a bit of a last stand kind of mechanic. And the way that works in battle would be, for example, that it seems like you get through like the first 70 to 80% of the HP really quickly, and you think that you're cruising to victory, and then suddenly the enemy will just start chaining like crazy against you. So it will start getting like 3, 4, 5 hits in a row against you with like no time to breathe in between. So it will suddenly, if it was doing like 50 a hit, it will suddenly chain together 4 of them and start hitting for 200s. And then, for example, its defense will start to go up. You'll start to be able to do less damage against it. And suddenly, that final 20 to 30% HP, for some reason, you keep dying at that same amount every single time. And that's basically what happened against Nidhogg, because I was just ripping through like the early phases. Despite the fact that it had Protect, I was still able to generally overpower it. But then, whenever I got nearer to like the finale, it just always ended up overpowering me, which was really rough. And so basically, despite maybe like 10-15 attempts against the Nidhogg, I just wasn't able to beat it, because it hits pretty damn hard. I mean, it's hitting for about 150, which means that for people like Fran, they're always 2 hits away from death. And even for someone like, say, Barsh, who is my highest HP, he can take 4 hits. And especially given that this guy can start chaining and stuff later on, it's all very, very dangerous stuff. And so the Nidhogg was like the first time when I tried to be a bit stubborn. You've seen obviously in some of the fights already, I've had this kind of approach of, oh, like it might be within the realms of RNG. Let's just try it 5 or 10 times. You should get a run where it works. This was one where I tried to do that, and it just kept falling short every time. And I basically kept dying at the same type of HP threshold every time. It just gets really, really aggressive and hard to beat after you do the first like 80% or so of its HP. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the final attempt I had against the Nidhogg before giving up. This was after like 10 or 15 attempts. And I'd started to, in my head at least, optimize the fight a little more, like where to stand, which party does the most damage, who should be drawing aggression, that kind of thing. And so this was kind of close to the best that I could do given the current situation. And so you'll see how the fight changes from the beginning to the end. But 206 damage there, that was just like bullshit. I don't know why she got hit so hard. I think maybe he has some kind of thing where, depending on the HP, it does even more damage at the start. So that was already a bit annoying. But now you're going to see me start to really do a lot more damage. Now, if the RNG does go your way, you can definitely get lucky. And for example, Barsh, who is obviously a big damage dealer here, he can chain together like 3 or 4 hits sometimes. And as a result of that, you can really just like make mincemeat of this guy. You can get blocks, you can get parries, there's like multiple things that can happen in your favor. So right now at least, look at this, I'm completely destroying this guy. We still have over 200, 300 HP for everybody. Barsh has 569, and this guy has like 10% of his HP left. This should be death now. But look at the damage numbers here. Suddenly Barsh is hitting for 65 now. He got a combo of 5, still not enough, and he just died now. Look how quickly these attacks are coming in. It's just like completely rapid fire. There's like 2 seconds between each hit. 120. And you can see basically his HP bar was non-existent. And at this point I was just like, you know what, screw this guy. I can come back and beat him when I'm slightly higher level anyway. I had literally maybe 4 or 5 fights in a row that ended in a similar way. And I just could not break through. And I just thought, you know what, screw this. I'm not wasting my time on this. Let's continue to move things along. And I will come back and beat the Nidhogg a little bit in the future. So that's just an example of how, like, I call them like the rallying / last stand mechanics, I guess. That's how they can really mess with you in this game and make what seems like a really easy fight turn into something that seems almost impossible because of the way that they just go completely ballistic when they're on that final like 10 to 20% of their HP. And so we move the story along and we find ourselves on the Dreadnought Leviathan, where we meet Ashe once again and Judge Ghis. Now, this part of the story, we are going to have to fight our way through quite a lot of these soldiers and eventually have a showdown against Ghis himself. So this should be a fun section of the game, and it's also where we get to permanently have Ashe as a party member. So let's kick things off in the Leviathan. Another bonus of being in the Leviathan is that we get Vossler, who is a beefy boy. He comes in at level 14. He has 488 HP, which is pretty impressive, and he's obviously going to hit pretty hard as well. So I fancied my chances, especially with Vossler around as well. I thought there's a good chance I'll be able to make my way through this bit. So obviously, as usual, I have to make sure I get rid of all of the gambits that could get him to do things that would break the challenge. But in general, this guy's, as you can see, he's pretty built towards just attacking the enemy. So I only had to get rid of basically telekinesis and one or two other things. And we were ready to go. Okay, so what I will do for this bit, once again, there's a lot of encounters, so we'll see a few of them play out, and then we'll move to some of the more significant moments of this section of the playthrough. Look at that giant sword from Vossler. He's got that great sword. He's ready to kick ass. And there we go. So that's always pretty much the ideal kind of situation where you trigger off the encounter and then you immediately, like, the aggro goes on Balthier, but before the enemy can even get to him, the rest of your characters have already taken him out, and that's great when that happens. So the general pattern here continues. As long as they come in ones, they're pretty easy to take out. But this is one section of the game where they're not going to be throwing enemies at you one at a time consistently. And so this was where I did something foolish because I was running in fast speed mode and I triggered off one of the alarms. So now we're going to see a barrage of enemies. And so this is definitely worth seeing. This is a much more dangerous situation. It's like 4 or 5 on 4. So we'll see how this goes. This was something I definitely didn't want to do, but ended up kind of falling into a bit of a trap here. Got lulled into a false sense of security. When I dealt with like the first 2 that appeared that quickly, and in general, as long as you're quite slow with those laser beam door things, you can get away with it. I thought I'd be fine. But maybe some of them are mandatory. I didn't take like too much of a deeper look at this in terms of like the map, and is there a way to completely avoid like triggering that every single time? But maybe this one was a mandatory one, I don't know. But in any case, you're seeing how it plays out, and it's not ideal. You don't want to get yourself into this situation too often because we can overcome it, but this is where obviously the chip damage will really start to set in. So even Barsh, like, he's taken 500 damage here, and Fran is below 100. So every time this happens, you're going to have to spend some time healing, and obviously precious resources. But hey, it was a good load of LP points and stuff as well, so that's obviously the benefit. But you can also see Balthier's gun here is doing good work against these soldiers, so the upgrade has definitely been useful somewhat. 213 damage there for that gun is basically the same as what Barsh is hitting for, and I can do that from long range, so I can't complain. Definitely need to make sure I keep up with Balthier's guns and try to always get the most recent one, because it is literally the only way to improve his damage output, so gotta make sure. There we go. This was also one part of the game where there were numerous times where I wasn't sure if enemies just respawn indefinitely, or if like there's a fixed number of them that you can take out and then it's set to clear. I definitely wasn't sure. Later on I think I realized that they do stop spawning eventually for some of these bits. But for now at least, there were times where I thought, you know what, instead of fighting these guys over and over, maybe we should just make more progress here. So here I deliberately ended up basically triggering the alarm. As I say, it felt like some of them were mandatory. You can see Fran with that potion lore. She's able to heal for 180, which is actually pretty nice for just a regular potion. So yeah, deliberately trigger the alarm here. And I just want to turn left and just break through as quickly as I can without engaging with those enemies. And our reward is like a mini boss battle here. So let's take a look at that. I do like this theme. Yeah, so fear not their numbers. Take down the leaders and the others will follow. So that's exactly what I tried to do. We've got 2 like baby judges here, and we'll see how we do. It's really nice to be able to just survey the battlefield like this, kind of really decide what you're going to do, and then go for it. So I got rid of this kind of nearest visible because there's a lot of enemies around. I want to really focus my attacks here. And so I got rid of those gambits for now, and we only focus our attention on this judge and hope that the others don't chip enough damage to kill us before we deal with the judge. Someone landed a critical there, which was really good. But this is going to be a bit close because they're hitting quite hard. But the first one went down, and we turn our attention to the second. Let's see if we can survive here. Everyone's obviously being targeted because there's so many enemies here, so we can't swap anybody out, which was not ideal. Clutch block there from Balthier, but not enough. He did get taken out. But it's just as the other judge fell as well. It was like they basically fell at the same time, which is kind of funny. Yeah, so the battle ended kind of simultaneously when Balthier died and when the second judge died. So I think it was the right strategy to just go after the judges. It was fine, but Balthier didn't quite have the HP to survive. But in any case, it doesn't matter. We won the mini-boss fight. I've got to live another day. Obtain the brick key, and now after this, obviously, again, I have to do the menu work to bring back Balthier, heal him, and all of that stuff. Now, here, again, I wasn't sure where the save crystal was, and so I didn't know if like it's literally in the next room, and I would have wasted items. Turns out I did. I shouldn't have done that. You basically get one anyway, so it was a Phoenix down wasted there, but it's okay. You can't always see it when you just look at the normal map, but I should have known, really. Because we got the brick key, and we were obviously going to go into the area where you get to see Ashe and add her to your party. Okay, so we finally get to have Lady Ashe in the team and our 5th permanent party member. And at this stage, most of the jobs that I was kind of interested in having for this run, I'd already basically got. And so I wasn't too sure what to do with Ashe. And again, I feel like she's naturally a little bit more built for like sword work and just like attacking. I think she's much more versatile in that she can kind of play both roles, like more of a mage and an attacker, a physical attacker. I decided to go for Foe Breaker for Ashe. I felt like that might be a decent idea. Plenty of attacking power, speed. They can also use things like bombs, which I thought might be interesting. They can offer you a few different options later on. They can equip heavy armor, and there might be one or two like high-level heavy armors that could be powerful for me later on. Obviously, things like the use of a shield give us access to blocking. They have things like adrenaline/focus, last stand. Some of those things can definitely help us out in battle. And so again, here to save you guys time, like watching me cycle through the menu and all the license board work and all that kind of thing. Obviously, again, for the Foe Breaker, I tried to go for something that would give me a little bit more HP and a little bit more power as soon as possible. At this stage, since I already had Balthier and Fran doing a little bit more of like the potion lore and the remedy lore work, it wasn't really as important for me to have that kind of thing. And so for the rest of my characters, I could focus a little bit more on their HP, their weapons, accessories, and all of that kind of stuff. So with Ashe in the party now as a Foe Breaker, she has around 500 HP, which is a nice kind of middle ground between like the biggest powerhouses like Barsh and the weakest characters we have like Balthier and Fran in terms of their HP. So with that, we can continue our path here and towards our showdown with Judge Ghis. Let's go. So for now at least, I decided to not immediately put Ashe in the squad. I wanted to kind of keep rotating characters around, because obviously some of them that get left out, they end up falling behind in terms of their levels. I'm doing my best to keep everybody within like 1 or 2 levels of each other. If it were up to me, I would have Barsh out there at all times, but as I say, then some of the others would fall behind. So I'm trying my best to keep things a little bit balanced here. Alright, let's take a look at this first encounter after obtaining Ashe. I don't think the enemies should have scaled up at all, but this is going to be quite a busy set of encounters. I want to see how we do in terms of our endurance. Can we survive long enough to cash in on all of this LP and experience without anybody dying? You can see new ones coming in. As I say, these were the bits of the game where I wasn't sure if you just stand here, do they just keep coming indefinitely? There were kind of arguments for both cases, because on the one hand, like if they do, then it's kind of an infinite leveling trick loop, which I don't think the developers would have wanted players to have. But on the other hand, it's kind of a bit of a escapey kind of situation, so they're probably expecting some momentum here from you. So that's why I wasn't too sure. which way to go. As Balthier gets hit with some lightning there. And someone's been poisoned. Fran's been poisoned here. Thankfully, poison in this game, it works fairly slowly. You can see that I think she lost 1 HP in like 5 seconds or something. So it doesn't seem too bad. I'm scanning the surroundings again here, just taking my time. Just making sure there's no one around. No gambits here, so that I don't trigger off any combat. And now I want to try and heal Fran while there's nothing going on. So this is one area where I try to be a bit careful, like to make sure I'm not engaged in combat. I think technically Fran was targeted there, but like this is one of those like grey areas where you kind of have to let it go. Like there basically wasn't an enemy in sight at the time. Like she's being targeted, but we're not really engaged in combat. So it's not the kind of thing that I'm going to reset for. And well, it disappeared anyway a few seconds later. So I'm going to give that one a pass. Okay, so we head into this open space, and there's a few more enemies awaiting us here. I probably should have healed before I came in here. Balthier doesn't have the most HP. Some of these guys have auto protect, so yeah, this probably wasn't the greatest idea. Let's see if we can survive this onslaught. Yeah, there's 2 enemies there that both have auto protect. That's not great. And some more poison has been applied. Yeah, things are getting a little bit shaky here. I need to put this gambit back on. This one's nice to have because every time you kill an enemy, depending on how things play out and how quick you are, sometimes there can be a bit of a kind of a downtime. And I think that gambit there definitely really helps just to kind of reduce the downtime between targeting enemies. So you can see the poison again from Varn. It's just it takes a long time to really show any effect. The much bigger concern is literally the attacks that we're receiving from the enemy. So this isn't looking too great here, and there's more enemies coming. So now is like should I run? Should I keep fighting here? Everyone's being targeted basically, other than Varn. So I decide to bring in Barsh. I do spot there that Varn is the only one not being targeted, and Barsh is now up to 900 HP. And so he can come in and kick some more ass, and hopefully kind of tip the scales a little more here, because the rest of the team is kind of in trouble, and there's more coming. And the Maguses are casting things like Blind, so that's also obviously a problem. But thankfully, with the addition of Barsh, we're really starting to move ahead here. And now Ashe gets her first chance to attack. And Ashe has equipment that naturally allows the use of Libra. So we're not casting Libra here, but we get the benefits. So this is perfect. And this is going to be helpful for us immensely in the future, because we're going to be able to see traps. And we are also going to be able to see enemy HP and any elemental weaknesses they may have as well. So that's perfect. There we go. Nice little level up. But they just keep coming. And so as I say, it's like, is this indefinite? How long do we have to survive this? And can we at this stage? It's getting harder and harder to survive here. So a bit of juggling around to do here, like a Gambit switched on, are they not? Like when new characters come in and stuff. Balthier also taken out there, unfortunately. The leading man. But I'm kind of hoping that this is the last set. And you can see Ashe with her Foe Breaker axe. There we go, almost done. And it does seem like that guy was the last one. Perfect. Whew. So we built up quite a big chain there. As I've mentioned already, oh god, they're back. I kind of forgot that they were back. But it's a good chance to talk about the whole chain mechanics again. And there we go, actually. We managed to heal as a result of the chain. I think this is a good time to actually give you guys a little bit more knowledge about chaining, because it's something that I didn't really know too much about. And part of why I like doing these playthroughs is because I get to sometimes research and present this type of information to you and deepen my understanding of some of these games. And so Chaining is a complicated thing. It's a whole like in-depth video that you'd have to research in and of itself. But to give you guys some idea of what happens here, the way you increase your chain is by defeating monsters/enemies of the same type. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly the same one. As long as they're of the same type, you are able to increase your chain. Now, the wiki says, as a player kills enemies of the same genus, the chain grows, shown as a number above the party's ATB and HP bars. Chaining enemies makes it more likely that they will drop rarer items, and makes it possible they will drop multiple items and more than one of the same item. It also says, at higher chain levels, loot items may bestow beneficial effects on the party when picked up. These chain bonuses include 10% recovery of HP and MP, and bestowing protect or shell statuses. At chain level 0, there is no chance of a bonus. At level 1, there's a 10% chance. At level 2, there's a 20 plus 5% chance. And on the highest chain level, there's a 25% chance to receive HP or MP, and a 5% chance of everyone being bestowed with protect or shell. So what this means is that the benefits of chaining are huge if they hit, but the amount of places in the game or moments in the game where you can reliably use chaining is quite low. So this place here obviously is a great example because you're just fighting these soldiers over and over again. But in a lot of areas, there's different types of enemies. So even in the Lhusu Mines, while you're trying to fight the bats, for example, you'll have like these skeletons popping out from the ground, and it's very difficult to juggle making sure you only kill the bats and you never touch the skeletons while you're trying to go through the Lhusu Mines, for example. So making this like a reliable way to play the entire game is not, it doesn't seem to me like a great idea. It probably can be used in some way, but I think a lot of the time it's just not going to be that feasible. Now, that said, there might be sections or moments of the game where actually chaining could be really beneficial, and it might be a way to, for example, like get protect and shell on everybody before some kind of fight or hunt or something like that. So there's definitely going to be times in the game, I think, where chaining could help you out a lot. But in terms of it being a viable strategy for example, never needing to heal in the game ever, I don't think it's going to be the most realistic, because even at the highest chain level, like the chances of actually getting a heal are still fairly low. And remember, of course, you're going to be taking chip damage every single encounter that you get. So if you heal like once every 4 encounters, on average, for 10% of your HP, that means you can only take like 50, 60 damage every 4 encounters. And we definitely take more damage than that every 4 encounters. So the math doesn't quite math for that, but I do think there could be some times where, for example, the protect and shell bonus could be very useful. And there might be times where we want to farm or hunt for certain items that at a high chain level could get dropped quite a lot. So that's the general idea about chains. Definitely a powerful tool in the game, but I don't think it's going to be like super important, especially at this particular stage. But if you are more curious about chains, there is more to it, but it's not going to be particularly relevant to me right now, and I don't want to spend a huge amount of time trying to study and explain the nuances of it. But I wanted to give you guys a general idea of what chaining can do and how it could be very powerful, whichever type of run you have. So with that, I am going to move to the final boss of this particular area. You've seen me face hordes of soldiers. You've seen I can hold my own as long as I can heal afterwards, which I can. And we will round off this episode with a true boss battle, because I didn't want to spend a whole episode and not show you guys a single legit boss. Now, in the name of speed, as I mentioned already, I gave Penelo the Time Battle Mage, but for now at least she's not going to be like a huge factor when it comes to the fighting, but I did make her the Battle Mage, and I also equipped someone with the Manufactured Netherite, because if you equip it as like an accessory, it can halve elemental damage from basically everything. It's a very powerful tool. And so for now, at least while we have it, we might as well benefit. Normally the downside of the Manufactured Netherite is that it silences you when you equip it. But hey, we are doing an attack only challenge, so we do not care. And therefore it's a nice little tool that I can use to basically halve all elemental damage for now. And so once Penelo joined in as well, I did a little bit of license board work for her as well, and made my way towards Judge Ghis for the final showdown to be able to escape from the Dreadnought Leviathan. Let's go. Alright, here we go. So, we have the Judge on one side, and we have 3 of Ghis's cronies on the other side, and it comes down to that same old thing. It's like, which one do we start with? for this one, I decided that since the swordsmen tend to be relatively easy to fight, it might still be the smarter idea to take them out as quickly as possible. And so that's what I tried to do. But someone already took 209 damage, which I was not happy with. But I'm saving Barsh for later. Barsh is still my kind of ace in the hole. And if Judge Ghis has those type of like rallying mechanics, they're going to get more difficult towards the end. And so I want some of my strongest characters available at the end as well, potentially. So there we go. Those guys were taken out pretty quick, but Ashe is already down to 188 HP. She had 656, which seemed like a pretty strong number, but it got worn away pretty fast. But let's see how quickly we can bring down the judge's HP here. Definitely some parrying going on as well, but I decided already to start bringing in the big guns here. So I decided to sacrifice Varn for Barsh. I basically want to bring him in as quickly as possible. But I still want at least one character to keep their distance, so I kept Valthir on for now. And Ashe already has been taken out. So Varn immediately comes back in. But we're closing in on halfway, it's not too bad. Now at this part of the fight I was a little bit torn because you can see that Judge Ghis is using arrow. And I was like, is he maybe susceptible to silence? Maybe I can equip the Mage Masher. But then I look at the attack power and I'm losing 13 attack by switching to it. So for now at least I decided to stay on the damage and just keep going. Varn does have half protection against arrow anyway, and so I thought that might help. So here comes Greater Barrier. Of course they're going to do a little something. So they have Shell and Protect now of course. But then a critical hit comes in, and even though Greater Barrier happens, we just completely blast through Judge Ghis, and it ends up being a relatively easy win. So Nidhogg ended up being more of a challenge for me than Judge Ghis, which was kind of surprising, honestly. I thought I'd find it a bit harder. But I think especially now the fact that we have 6 party members, it gives us a lot of opportunities to rotate round once people have died. And so those type of mechanics are very, very useful and will help us in the future, I am sure. So we are continuing to make our way through. I mean, we kind of power through. The Nidhogg was the only thing that really caused me any trouble in this particular session. But thankfully, in terms of the story, we are making very good progress, and I am looking forward to showing you guys more in the next episode. So, as always, if you are enjoying the content and you want to support this type of work, I would really appreciate your support on Patreon. It helps massively, and there's a few other perks there that you may enjoy, like being able to access our exclusive Dan's Great Brain Trust Discord, and even receiving some signed artwork if you are in the top tier for a certain period of time. I'll be back soon with more. Thank you all for watching. Hope you are continuing to enjoy my return to Ivalice. I will see you soon for more. Thank you for watching. Take care.